Hey, what's up, gang? It's Mike Schomer, editor, founder, former Inkstange Rich, North Wright County today. Say, we've got a fun recording for you today. We've got Doug Chapin, who is a political pundit and expert and former, University of Minnesota political kind of wonk, and he is running for Congress in our 6th district here. We're kind of kicking off some political interviews I'd like to do throughout this pivotal year to introduce you to candidates. So we're reaching out to literally everybody. We've reached out to Doug's opponent, uh, current Representative Tom Emmer. We're going to be reaching out to some state legislators who we want to profile, both current incumbents and their challengers, as we get through the primary season here. And then we'll focus more on city and school board candidates as we get closer to those local elections, because we feel, one, 2026 is going to be a very important election, and two, that we are, going to do our best to have an educated electorate, and that's one thing we can do through this podcast, and that I like to do and have chosen to do since coming here in 2006, when I was thrust into election coverage with my first job down in Edina. So I've been doing this for 20 years now, and this is, of course, would make it my fifth midterm. Of course, there's 5 general elections in there. I coordinated election coverage for Patch when I was with Patch.com, and so politics is kind of one of those things that I just have a true passion for, and can't wait to use that to bring that expertise to you guys. So we'll get to Doug shortly here. I do want to sound off on a couple of our sponsors. First of all, let's kick it off with Stellis Health and StellisHealth.com. Longtime sponsor of North Wright County Today and a sponsor of our podcast. StellisHealth.com Stellis Health, we want you to go there for all the medical information that you need. They've got blogs on there. You can see locations near you for healthcare, for everything from obstetrics to pediatrics to taking care of your feet and bones, orthopedics. So check them out. They've got podcasts that are a little more professional than this one probably, and blogs out there, informational articles. You can call and ask a nurse. So head on over to StellisHealth.com, locations in Monticello and of course Buffalo. Great people, neighbors caring for neighbors. StellisHealth.com. And we want to thank our friends over at Deerwood Bank. Nick is going to join me a little into the podcast here when we interview Mr. Chapin. And Nick would tell you it's been a great couple weeks at Deerwood Bank. They've been busy and receiving all the accolades, really. I mean, great place to work, recognition, just one of the top businesses in our region, and all the banking awards too. So know that if you're banking locally with our friends down at Deerwood Bank, you are in good hands. So check them out at the bank building on just off 241 and Melby there in St. Michael, or deerwoodbank.com. I also want to give a shout out to sponsor Solutions Counseling. Check them out at getcounseling.org. My friends over there are wanting you to know that mental health is just as important as your physical health, and they want you to check out getcounseling.org, where you can get all the information about the things that are happening there. You can meet the doctors, get a tour. They can even set you up for telehealth if you're into that thing, or if you want to go in person there in St. Michael, just off of Highway 241 as well, in Thielen Drive. Just some great people over there helping you out, and they've got plenty of information about mental health and all that stuff too on their website, getcounseling.org. Solutions Counseling, right there in St. Michael. Hey, we are in the home stretch of Lent. We've got a couple Fridays left, so check those fish fries. You can check our friend over at STA Mom. She's got some of those listed over there. I've noticed that some of the local publications have those too. Of course, we love our friends over at Liberty Restaurant. This is not an ad or a plug or anything like that. This is just saying, hey, get on over to Liberty for the fish fry, because Friday nights, they've got the best in town. But everybody's kind of in on the game for those, so check those out as we get near to Easter here on April 4th. So check those out. Plenty of events coming up. It's crazy to think, but here we are mid-March, which means Albertville Friendly City Days is going to be just around the corner. They're already kind of getting the feelers out for that, so if you're interested in being a sponsor or getting involved in the garage sale, some of the other events that they've got going on around that second weekend in June, check out albertfriendlycitydays.com. That, of course, is brought to us by the Albertville Lions and is just one of the premier events to kick off summer here. And it feels like, as I record today, we can just see summer down the road there, right? We've had a little bit of snow. You'll see as I talked to Doug, it was just the day before the snow hit. But we seem to be on the backside of that, and it looks like spring is springing. So we're looking forward to some of those summer events. So without further ado, I've rambled on for about 10 minutes here, but we're going to jump in with Doug and introduce one of our first candidates. And like I said, we're going to hopefully talk to a lot of candidates from both sides of the aisle as we go through this pivotal year of 2026 before we have the election down the road here on November 3rd. All right. There we go. So, all right. I kind of I threw this out there weeks ago that we were going to kind of introduce some of our political folks, especially in such a big year for elections here in Wright County. And so we welcome Doug Chapin, the front runner for now for the 6th District DFL nomination for Congress here to North Wright County Today, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. How you doing?
Oh, it's great. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the snow, but it looks awfully sunny still. So
yeah, it's Friday the 13th, and of course, here we are in March, and we get that little false hope of that we're going to make it through to spring without another punch, but Mother Nature has other ideas. So
Mother Nature says not so fast now.
the old coach, not so fast, my friend. Right?
That's right.
Well, Doug, you're in the friendly confines down in Hanover there, I'm assuming, or
I am.
So tell me about your journey here. I know you've been in the politics game for a long time. Your background is really impressive. I mean, between University of Minnesota, I wore my Gopher stuff for you today, and then Pew Research and stuff like that. I know, you've been around the game for a while. Now you're in feet first. Tell me about that transition.
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've spent my entire career, almost 4 decades, despite my boyish good looks, working in and around law, politics, and government. I've worked in the election and democracy space. mostly. I have an undergrad in politics from Princeton, a master's in public administration from the Kennedy School at Harvard, and then a law degree from Georgetown University. And through my career, I've worked as an attorney on Capitol Hill with the Senate Rules Committee. As you mentioned, I was at Pew for over a decade doing advocacy for military and overseas voting and online voter registration and the like. And then I did spend a decade at the U at the Humphrey School, starting and then teaching a program for current and future election officials across the country. So I grew up in the DC area, lived in Northern Virginia, married a woman from Duluth, and we raised our family out there. We had always planned to move back here after we retired. Unfortunately, she died in summer of 2022, and I decided my kids were grown, and I was going to go ahead and follow through on that plan and moved up here. And I was just going to be an election geek working on projects around the country. And then on January 20th last year, the president pardoned the January 6th rioters. And as I mentioned, I've worked on the Hill. I have hundreds of friends who either work in congressional offices or have worked on the Hill. And what happened that day was unacceptable, unforgivable. And I decided that that was the moment I needed to stop being on the inside, trying to make things better, and actually get out front and defend democracy. And so, like any good fighter, I picked up prison yard rules. I went looking for the biggest guy in the prison yard, and that's Majority Whip Tom Emmer out here in the 6th District. And I jumped in literally feet first, and I've been doing it since about mid-February of 2025.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for a second, introduce you to Nick Schultz. Nick is, of course, my co-host on the podcast, and he's also president of Deerwood Bank there in St. Michael. So sponsor of the program and co-host. And Doug, Nick, Doug. We're just kind of getting Doug's background and how he got here, and just his extensive background in elections and things like that, from elections expert to candidate, which is a big transition. And the campaign so far has been, I would think, eye-opening, for you, just to see, the corner we turned January of this year with some of the things that developed, and how it's just motivated people, both sides of the aisle, but definitely Democrats right now to get going and get moving. And we're seeing that in caucuses and now, of course, conventions across your district.
Yeah, absolutely. And nice to meet you, Nick. Incoming co-hosts and sponsors always have the right way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad you're here. Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. I think that as I said, I've been doing this for almost a year. Tom Emmer was already not terribly popular among people. I used to joke that if I had a nickel for every person who told me that they couldn't stand Tom Emmer, I would have already raised more money than he has. But that hit another gear in January of this year with the ICE invasion and occupation, and really specifically the morning of January 6th. I mean, what is it with Republicans saying January 6th, right? But the morning of January 6th, the beginning of Metro Surge, Tom Emmer goes on Facebook and says, "God bless our brave ICE agents, go get them." And 24 hours later, Renee Good was dead. And then Liam Ramos was abducted. And then Alex Preddy was murdered. And throughout that entire process, Tom Emmer not only didn't defend Minnesota, didn't even have the decency to stay quiet like many of his Republican colleagues did, but actively cheered them on, actively defended the administration, actively defended ICE and Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem and everyone else. So much so that I now, on social media and as many times as I can in public, I refer to him as Tom Go Get 'em ICE Emmer. There's a special place in political hell for people who turn their backs on the people who represent them. And the heel turn that Tom Go Get 'em ICE Emmer has made since January 6th has been astonishing, but on the other hand, incredibly invigorating to Democrats, and I think even people I call DFL curious independents and Republicans across the district.
Well, that was one of the things I was maybe going to dive into a little bit. You're in the 6th district, which is obviously, a deeply red area traditionally. But I think what you're kind of getting at is true. It shades purple when you talk about these are people with common sense. These are people with values that align with love thy neighbor type stuff. Is that what you're hearing kind of in the wake of all this? That, even though this is a huge Republican district that aligns with Republican and conservative values, maybe there's some disenfranchisement going on?
Yeah, I definitely, and I'm going to talk about it being a Republican district in just a minute. But yeah, you do hear that. I mean, you hear that among folks, maybe not MAGA folks, but other folks, Democrat, Independent, Republican, that there really is a sense that here in Minnesota, we have not only accepted new neighbors, but have actively sought them out. There are huge communities, Somali communities, Hmong communities, other communities who came here because churches and nonprofits actively sought them out and brought them here to help them start a new life away from the places that were either chasing them out or actively trying to kill them. So there is kind of a sense that there is a violation of this love thy neighbor. And it really does, it makes people angry, but I think it also offends them really deeply. And I think it motivates folks in a way that shouldn't be surprising to those of us who know Minnesotans, but I think sometimes is surprising to people who think that you can just point the finger at an immigrant and people are instantly going to turn their back. Real quick, I want to talk real quick about the 6th district. And you'll look at the 6th district and you'll look at the election returns. And Tom Emmer has won it with an average of about 62, 63% ever since he was first elected in 2014. I think that's a really soft 62 or 63 for a couple of reasons. Number one, Democrats have never, ever run a serious candidate against him. This week, we announced that we've raised over $230,000. That's the most ever a Democrat has ever raised for the entire cycle running against Tom Emmer. Also, this district has way more Democrats than people give it credit for. Amy Klobuchar, when she ran as a Senate candidate in this district 2 years ago, got 33,000 more votes than did the Democrat running for the job I'm running for right now. And then finally, you all live here. I mean, Jason, you're at a bank. You're probably lending money to these people. New houses, new developments, houses, condos, apartments, what have you. Thousands and thousands of people moving into the district. The census says 1 in 5 people in this district moved here in the last 5 years. And the people moving into those new units are younger, on average, have higher incomes, are more diverse, and definitely are coming from more progressive communities where they've probably already been voting Democratic or are around people who did. We think that this district looks a lot like the 3rd district did when Dean Phillips surprised Eric Paulson in 2018. And we're aiming to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and for us, we obviously don't get to ask anybody's political affiliation when they apply for a home loan, but there's pretty strict rules against that. But I wanted to ask about the 6th district itself, and I would consider myself somewhat apolitical. It depends on whatever issue it is, and then generally speaking, there's a gut reaction one way or the other. But
right,
can you talk a little bit about the fact that I don't know how much I have in common with people in Stillwater living in here? I mean, it's a massive district, and it's just I was just curious, kind of, what's your opinion on how that became, and how do you manage that as a candidate? That's a big territory there.
Yeah, the good news is you don't live in a district with Stillwater anymore. That changed after 2022. Let's see if my camera will follow me.
Yeah.
No, it won't. All right. So I have so the 6th district. I work with a young man who talks about the district looks like a Pac-Man. It comes down and it grips the metro area, all the way from eastern Anoka as far east as Lino, wraps around Anoka and then down to all of Carver County.
Gotcha.
And then it goes up the I-94 corridor through Wright and Sherburne to include pretty much the populated areas of Stearns County and all of Benton County. Now, the district was drawn after the 2020 census by a court, after the legislature was unable to agree. So it's in many ways, it's just kind of a tweak of the map that you're talking about. We like to laugh that people in Coon Rapids got Kelly Morrison in the divorce, and Chanhassen got Tom Emmer. So they were winners and losers, right? But yeah, it's funny, right? So the first district is Farm Country in the south. The second is South Metro. The third is West Metro. The fourth is East Metro. The fifth is Minneapolis, St. Paul. The seventh is basically all of western Minnesota from the Canadian border almost to Iowa. And the eighth is Duluth as far out as the population goes.
Yeah,
and then
covered in snow.
It's kind of, if you've ever made cookies or seen someone make cookies, in some ways the sixth is the dough that's left over after you cut out all the cookies, right? So we've got cities, we've got suburbs, we've got exurbs, we've got farmers. But there's amazing stuff here, right? We've got Paisley Park, we've got the Apple House, we've got the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. We've got all the farms. We've got the beauty of Wright County, and the Crow River and all the recreation that entails. You've got the incredible ethnic diversity of St. Cloud on that area, also over in Blaine and Eastern Anoka. The National Sports Center in Blaine. The Sixth District has some amazing stuff going on for a district that I think sometimes people think of as leftover territory.
Yeah, and I think just from a business perspective, we work with so many manufacturers in this area, in the areas that you named. It's just the work ethic and the work quality that comes out of this area is probably second to none.
Yeah, and another thing that I don't know that people really realize, the Sixth District in many ways is the national headquarters, if not the world headquarters, of the medical technology industry. We've got Boston Scientific, we've got Medtronic, we've got Abbott, we've got all the companies that makes the components that supply those companies. So when we talk about healthcare in this community, we're not just talking about it as patients. We're talking about it, as employees or business owners who benefit from the people who work in those companies. And I mean, look, every member of Congress wants to say that his or her district is the center of it all, but I think, I'm right. It is.
and specifically Minnesota. What as things shift here, and you inch closer to the the endorsement officially, and where are we at in the process right now for you? And then what gears shift when we get to summer and early fall here?
Sure. So right now, so you mentioned caucuses. So in February, people across the state went to their party caucuses, whether it was the DFL or the Republican Party. We had a huge outpouring of support. I think attendance something like quadruple or quintuple for the DFL. Right now, we're in convention season. So each Senate district or sometimes county, depending on how it's organized, has a convention where they decide on resolutions, they elect or they endorse their state Senate and state House candidates. But then they also choose delegates to both a congressional district convention and the state convention. So we're in the process now of going community to community and pulling down delegates at each of those conventions. We've had 4 conventions so far. Senate District 14 in St. Cloud, Senate District 31 in Andover, a little piece of Senate District 35 in Anoka, and then Senate District 30 here in Wright County in Otsego. 40 delegates to the state convention have been awarded in those 4 conventions. We've gotten 30 of them, either outright pledged or conversing with so-called uncommitted delegates
Mm-hmm.
after that. 3 more conventions this weekend: White Bear Lake, Buffalo, and Zimmerman, and then a couple more to round out the month the next couple of weeks. The goal is to get 67 delegates for a first ballot win at the convention. On April 25th, that's when the party will formally endorse a candidate for Congress. And at that point, those of us who are running who don't get endorsed, as one party official said, that's when the hard breakup happens. That's when all of a sudden the party only has eyes for one candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start the process of marching toward both the state convention at the end of May and then the primary in August. Now, if there are no other candidates in the Democratic for the nomination, then there won't be a primary. That's rarely the case. Usually somebody files just because either they want to have a choice or they just want to see their name on a ballot. So we're planning to run in the primary in August and to run that as a rehearsal for general election day. And then after that, it's a sprint from August 11th to November 3rd to win the election. So it's kind of this. I've spent a year, traveling the district, and you can feel the pace picking up. And I'm pretty sure that as soon as the endorsement happens at the state convention in May, it's going to be like a starter's pistol, and all of a sudden we're going to wake up and it's going to be November.
Yeah,
I think one of the major questions people have, and I'm going to lean on your background in elections here, maybe take off the Doug Chapin for Congress hat just for a second.
Sure.
Is what are elections in the fall going to look like? And I'll just ask you, what do you think elections in the fall are going to look like with so much uncertainty being tossed out there, whether it's by a political pundit or former candidates themselves saying this might not look the way you think it's going to look?
Yeah, this is, and putting on my election geek hat. I actually literally do have an election geek hat that my kids made for me at one point. If I'd known that, I would actually put it on. But yeah, I talk a lot about this. I think that the thing to remember about this nation's election system, for all the talk and smack talk about it, it's incredibly resilient. We had a presidential election in this country in 1864 with half the country in literal open armed rebellion, and we still had an election. So there's going to be a lot of talk there. There's concern about ICE agents at the polls or passage of bills like the SAVE Act that will require, really crushing documentary proof of citizenship or identity. Almost all of that is just talk. I think there are people, mostly on one side of the aisle, but some on both, who are trying to make people nervous about casting their ballots in the fall. My advice to voters, as fellow Americans and as an election geek who did this for 40 years, the process works. You have to be election ready. So even people who have been registered at the same address for 2 decades, highly recommend that you go to the state website and look up your voter registration and just make sure that it's right. And do that every couple of months before election day. Those of us, maybe you guys are too young, but I'm of the age where we would call the airline to confirm our seat before a flight, right? I think it's important to do that. Know where your polling place is. If you are going to vote on election day, polling places change. It's not like, schools aren't available, churches are busy. I have an election official friend who says his mortal enemy are the Halloween stores, because they suck up all of the vacant space for election day, right? So, know where your polling place is, but then finally know what your options are for casting a ballot. Back in the day, you could only cast your ballot in your local polling place on election day.
Right.
That's no longer the case, especially not in Minnesota. You can cast a vote by mail. You can get an absentee ballot and fill it out and return it to a drop box or a county election office. You can vote before election day in a polling place. The process has evolved to the point where it really does work for most people. however their life is, knowing what those options are is really crucial. And without saying what to do, if you're at all nervous about casting a ballot, I think sooner than later is better. You'd rather find out 2 weeks before election day that something is wrong with your registration than 2 minutes until the polls close on election day. Right. So, the Canadians have that great saying, elbows up. I think you have to be elbows up when it comes to casting your ballot in any state, but especially in this state in the current environment.
Sure. I'm a huge fan of early voting. I don't know that I've voted on election day in 4 elections. It's like my wife and I, we meet at St. Michael City Hall, cast our ballot, and then go have lunch. It's a little.
It's a good little date day. My son was 18 in 2024, and that's exactly what we did. I know Colin is knocking on that, and for those first time voters, it's almost nice to have an opportunity to say, look, you can do it this way. There's no crowds. I can, I can help you not necessarily sway your vote, but like help you understand the process. Yeah. Right. And I think that's just a really cool thing about our state.
Yeah. And it
works.
I think part of the problem is, and unfortunately, I mean, without pointing any fingers, we have a lot less civics education in this country, and we talk a lot about voter education, like who to vote for on your ballot, but we don't have a lot of way of voting education. I mean, you really do. You get young people, and honestly, some not so young people who walk into the polling place feeling like it's a test they're going to fail, like they're going to do something wrong, or somebody's going to, hit them with a big aha and snatch the ballot out of their hands. I think voting is very straightforward. It isn't always easy, but it's very straightforward. And with just a very little bit of it, sort of education about what the process looks like, you can walk in feeling confident that the choices you put down on your ballot are the ones that are going to be counted on election day.
What's been the coolest part of this process for you, switching from what we just talked about to candidate Doug and meeting people across your district?
It sounds silly. I mean, it sounds like a politics. It's the people. I've made literally thousands of new friends. Getting to go all over the district. I joke that I've been from Andover to Zimmerman and everywhere in the alphabet in between over the last year plus. But you really do. I've met people that I really have never had the chance to meet. I've been exposed to cultures I've never been exposed to before. Kind of my personal guilty pleasure. I love driving the back roads. There's nothing, and I just had, people talk about the glimmer, right? There's just those brief moments of bliss. I mean, I've had that driving south on 10 and seeing the sunset off to my right. I've seen that heading west on 212 for an early morning meeting and seeing the sunrise over Carver County. It's just, I'm relatively new to the district, but I really have kind of fallen in love with the district and its people. And I realize a candidate would probably say that anyway. But I really do. That's been the best part of it for me.
Cool. I'm going to wish you the best of luck the rest of the way. I hope to have you back as we get closer. Of course, I'm gonna put out the addendum that we are going to reach out to other candidates in Fairness Doctrine Act and try to get them to join us as well. But I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed getting to know you. Having met you a few weeks ago, and I thought for sure you were going to say all the breweries, around the district.
Yeah. Breweries, coffee shops, pizza places. So
they seem to be just a natural for getting people together and having conversations, and we've got some great spots here in the 6th District. So thanks,
totally
Doug, so much. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Best of luck. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
All right, back with you here to close up the show. Thanks again to Doug and Nick for joining me. Wanted to give a couple more shout outs to our sponsors. First of all, it's tax season, and we want you to check out Peggy Shum. Peggy Shum is the accountant for me and for North Wright County Today. The business, the website, the company, the podcast, all of it. Peggy takes care of us because Peggy's local and knows how to take care of me and knows the tax laws that apply to me. You can check her out at cpapss.com or visit her in the bank building down in Town Center right next to Chipotle and Starbucks there. They are taking materials now to prep taxes for 2025. And if you need an extension, which people like me and my friend Sam Pfeiffer, who owns the selfie company there, we love to take advantage of that extension and get a little extra time there to get our stuff together. So check them out. Peggy Shum, she's been doing taxes for St. Michael, Albertville residents for a long, long time. I can tell you that she's been very involved locally with Shop STMA and worked with many of those businesses. And like I said, she works with my business. So let her take care of you. That's cpapss.com. And of course, we're usually recording from the friendly confines of the Selfie Company. We've given Sam a couple of hat tips throughout the podcast, but Selfie Company, check them out on Facebook. Get those pre-prom photos. You don't even have to worry about the weather. Just pop in there, use some of the sets, use some of the ring lights, use some of the cameras that they've got, and get those pictures taken with your besties. They're also going to be at all the proms with the 360 photo booth, and you can get them for events like graduation. So check them out. Also, seniors coming up, class of 2027. Can't even believe I'm saying that, but I will have a senior next year. You can check them out for senior photos and even do some fun indoor photos with the sets over at Selfie Company. So check out Sam and Selfie Company on Facebook. They are a proud sponsor of the podcast. So, all right. Now that we've got all the ad drops in, we got the interview with Doug, and we got some events, cool events for you coming up. Hopefully those golf courses are opening soon. We're going to let you know about that. Hopefully March Madness is treating you well. Your brackets are good. We got tournament season all over the place, and before you know it, we're going to be into track and baseball and softball and all the fun sports around here too, and of course club soccer and all those things going on. So best of luck to all the athletes, all the fans, all the parents as we roll through spring. We will be back soon. Our next pod is going to be with Corey and our friend Jeff O'Brien. They together have helped launch the new cannabis business in St. Michael. We'll be doing that from the friendly confines of the studio. But we can't wait to talk to you about the cannabis company, which took over the old Lucky Pet spot in St. Michael, and all the things that they're going to have. It is the first dispensary and cannabis retail spot in, I believe, Wright County, but for sure the St. Michael Albertville area. And it's a pretty exciting business, and I'm super happy to be able to bring you guys the inside scoop. That'll be our next pod, which we'll be posting hopefully before I head on vacation. So have a great great weekend, everybody, and a great spring. It looks like I said, spring has finally sprung, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.